Let's talk about the minor characters in your book and what do we need to know about them. I'm Karen Beery with Right Now Editing, where we turn good manuscripts into great books.
And I'm Pegg Thomas, multi award winning author and editor, and we are two editors for 5 minutes.
And today, we're going to spend 5 minutes talking about minor characters.
I
So,
love
Peg,
minor characters.
what is a minor character? And how is it different than your main character?
Okay, a minor character is somebody who is in the story at least 2-3 times. I mean, very minimal 2 or 3 times. A lot of times, my minor characters are more like sidekicks, so they're with my main characters throughout most of the story. And I love to use minor characters for bringing out sometimes humor in the story. Sidekicks are great for humor. Sometimes becoming a foil for the main character's personality. So if my main character is taciturn and whatever, then sometimes I'll give him kind of a little bit of a goofball sidekick who will poke at him and needle at him and just really show that difference in that interplay between their characters. It rounds out my main character more to have that foil so that we can start to see a little bit more about who he is. Another way I use minor characters is say, if someone were to go into a restaurant regularly, get to know the waitress regularly, that waitress can become a minor character, can become part of the story because it's showing up time and time again. And I even use animals as minor characters in my stories because I write historical when people lived a lot closer to nature than they do today. And a lot of times in historicals, a man survived because of his horse. So that horse becomes a minor character.
And I think what you'll really see in the good minor characters is they are essential to the story. They
Yes.
really help move the story forward. One of the things I've seen regularly when I'm editing is that any person that enters a book gets a name. So that waitress, if somebody stops at a gas station on the side of the road, there's a little diner, there's a waitress, and they name the waitress and give us a little history. And then they tell you who the cashier is at the gas station. And then the car breaks down and they tell you the name of the mechanic. But those people aren't really characters. They're what I call the placeholders because you need someone to bring the food to the table, but we don't need to know the character's name. We don't need to know any history about the second grade teacher that inspired your character to go into art. We just need to know that it was your second grade teacher. We don't necessarily need the name because here's what happens subconsciously is as soon as you give a character a name, your reader thinks that person is going to become important later. And they're going to hold on to that name and they're going to get to the end of the book and say, what happened to Maria? Maria was, serving food in chapter 2 and she just disappeared. But if you treat her kind of as that placeholder that she is and just let her deliver the food, then it's not going to confuse the readers at all. You're not going to give unnecessary emphasis to the characters that don't need it. And we got a little bit time left. We were talking about minor characters also work well in subplots. So Peg, how do you use your minor characters in subplots?
Well, sometimes the minor character knows things that the main characters don't know that may be pertinent to the story later on. They bring in a backstory, they bring in a certain amount of knowledge or whatever that can affect the main story with this little subplot of whatever that was going on with that minor character before he got there, and then suddenly that gets entwined with the main character. I've used that before, and that works really well.
And if you're going to give your minor character a subplot where, their lives are intertwined with the main characters, but you want the minor character to have their own kind of little story within the story, then that work we talked about the last 3 weeks with the GMCs, your minor characters need to have that too. Now, they don't need to have as much detail, but if you want to give a minor character, a little, and I've seen this before, they, have a little side romance. So maybe it's the sister and we're not really as interested in what the sister's doing, but then she meets a guy and then at the end they're dating. But we need a little bit of information along the way. Is she interested in dating? Is she not? Like, Is this a good thing? Because maybe it's not a good thing. Maybe your sister is a codependent person and we don't want to see her in a relationship. So, if you're going to put a minor character in a subplot, you got to treat it like you treat the main plot and you've got to do a little bit of that character work. We're getting so good at this. That's 2 weeks in a row.
And let me just plug one of my books really quick, really quick.
Okay.
It's called, one of my books is Cobalt Skies, and in Cobalt Skies, I use an animal, minor character, a mule named Peaches, and the purpose of Peaches was to show the difference between my hero and my heroine and how they viewed things. And just adding that mule added a lot to the story. I've had more and more people comment on it, and that was using a minor character, an animal minor character, to prop up my major characters in the story.
So that's all we've got for you this week on minor characters. If you've got questions, leave them below. And until then, we'll see you next week. I'm Karen Beery with Right Now Editing.
And I'm Peg Thomas. We'll see you next time.